What's up, Closer Nation? Shit, I'm back with another guest. You know what? 3 fucking weeks in a row I got guests on here. It's pretty cool. You know, people like me. I found some interesting people. I want to present them to you. Plus, I'm kind of running out of shit to say. You know, this is a 12-year-old podcast, and you know, I don't want to be like Biden and keep repeating myself in mumbo jumbo. So I brought other intelligent people with me over the last few weeks to share their stories. Today is not going to be any exception. We're going to have an amazing show. But before we get into that, before I introduce my guest, here's the thing. I say it every week. You want to get rich in sales, you're going to have to get leads. You can have the best product in the world. If you can't generate leads and people to talk to, it doesn't fucking matter how good your product is. If nobody knows about it, nobody's talking about it, nobody knows it exists, you're not going to get paid. Meanwhile, you can have a really shitty product. But if you're good at marketing and good at getting leads, you will fucking crush it. Look at Microsoft, right? Microsoft has literally one of the shittiest products known to man. The Microsoft computers crash. You ever go to the store or the mall? I know it's an old thing. For some of you young people, the mall is this place where a lot of retail outlets gather together. It was prior to Amazon. But you go to the mall, there's like an Amazon or an Apple store and a Microsoft store right across the fucking hall from it. Microsoft, man, you can see tumbleweeds rolling through that motherfucker. The Apple store have a line wrapped around like it's Drake's CD release date out front, man. So what I'm saying is you can have a shitty product and still fucking sell a lot of it if you know how to get leads. So the key to getting leads is using Phonesites, right? It's the easiest way to get leads because these days we have social media. We have the internet. It's easy to make an offer, post that offer online, collect name, email, and phone number from somebody to have a sales conversation. I'd rather talk to one person with the potential to buy my shit that actually wants to talk to me than talk to 1,000 prospects that don't give a shit that I'm trying to Jedi mind trick them into buying my stuff. So you want to get leads, which is what you need. You want to get good at sales, talk to more people. You want to talk to more people, leads is always the answer. I've been saying this since 2012. Go to phonesites.com/closer. See, I got this fucking sales pitch shit down. You know what I'm saying?
Done it a couple times,
yeah,
right?
a couple times, right? 12 fucking years, you know?
Jeez.
So today I have my guest, Beeben Russell, who's hanging out with me for the day. You know what I mean? It's like you get a day in the life, you know what I mean? So we start out early, hit the gym. Now we're here on the podcast, and we're headed to Sean Whalen's event in Salt Lake to speak. So, you know, it's like get to have the full experience of the day together. You know, you're going to be fucking exhausted at the end of the night, I promise.
I'm looking forward to it,
So, man, you have a really cool story. You know, we were talking about this morning on the way to the gym, and you've been a member of Apex for a while, so I kind of knew bits and pieces of it, but you have a really unique story. And by the way, camera guy, he's from here. He's local. You know what I mean? He left for Florida, which is like Texas's cousin. You know what I mean?
That's
so
right. DeSantis is all right.
It's not that you left for California or Oregon or something like that, so we're good, right? But
can't be doing that.
My California people like, quit shitting on us. We love you, Stewman. Quit shitting on us, right? It's just a Texan in me. That's all. I love you guys too. But tell us a little bit, you know?
Yeah, sure.
You're in a very unique medical world, but that's not where it all started.
No. So what's interesting is we started kind of what a lot of people would say is the woo-woo market or the energy market. We did a lot of biofeedback, graduated to light therapy. So each time we started dealing with a higher level of group of people, which meant more opportunity for money within the distribution pool that we had.
Now, my audience, you're using big ass words, dog. You know what I mean? You have to dumb it down for me. Maybe it's not the audience, maybe it's me. But
No. So essentially, for instance, like massage therapists, we started creating kind of a save the hands program. And we kind of found these loopholes because marketing is a little bit different in that world because you can and can't say certain things. And as you climb that medical ladder, it really chops you off of what you can and can't say. But the tactics are the same, but the way you deploy them are different. So when we started working with massage therapists, we wanted to go to chiropractors. When we did that, we started looking at other different symptomatic disease states of patients, right? And you had to create a protocol. And instead of, for instance, you're kind of the beacon for Apex Break Free and everything else, right? You can't really do that in medical. You have to select a doctor, hand feed them the weapons, and then get him to be that promoter, right? Because he can say certain things you can't. But same tactics, but kind of different. So yeah, that's medical sales is great. Same underlying tactics, but that's kind of what we went through as a graduation of professionalism and closer to the drug market, where we're kind of like alternative and antis and somewhere in the middle, right? But this one's going to be the bridge. We've heard about regenerative medicine and a bunch of other things coming, and these cell and gene therapies and everything else. So that's what we kind of graduated from, is out of my garage, selling stuff to chiropractors. So now we're dealing with large orthopedics and everything else. So just a graduation of medical, like you said, leveling up. But in the medical world, you can kind of do that in its own niche, right?
Dude, you're not a doctor, right?
No, not at all.
You have a medical degree or college? You go to college?
No.
No, me neither. So that's why you're just a fit for the podcast here, right? But that's probably why you're smart, right? 'Cause you didn't go to college, right? Because, I say this a couple times throughout the podcast over the years, but like some of the dumbest people I've ever met are doctors and lawyers. You're programmed your whole life that they're smart. Not all of them, but some of them, you're like, especially lawyers, they're the worst, right? You're like, dude, this guy graduated from Harvard. How the hell is he even thinking like that? So it's interesting. But you don't know that till you get to this level. And you I'm sure deal with lawyers all the time, and obviously doctors all the time. Me, not so much the doctors, but lawyers all the damn time.
More than we want to.
Yeah.
I think it's just it's part of the beast you got to deal with as you climb because, I saw you make a post the other day that really resonated with me is as you kind of climb, more and more people are going to come after you. And it's like the force of average that you talk about, which resonates so well because you can kind of create that yourself. Life can do it. Your business can do it, things in your family. And it's another degree each time. And the hustle in you got to keep it fun, right? And tackling it. So, and that's what, I spent a week in high school before they sent me down the street to Winfrey, which is a alternative school. But I just started my business.
Alternative school for alternative medicine. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. So they, I started in sales, right? I got good at selling. I had my own distributorship. We convinced the manufacturer, hey, you're good at manufacturing, you suck at selling. Let us take over the distribution of it.
But how do you learn that, right? Like, so someone's out there and they're like, I got a medical idea, just like you had a medical idea. Where did you start? A book, the internet? Like, what was it that you were like, hey, I'm going to figure this shit out?
So I guess I'm a researchaholic. I think that started, honestly, and I think it's more of an investment in my own brain, mind, and everything else. So it started with, I do a lot of saltwater fish keeping. I moderated a board at 14 years old, and that's when I started to actually use forums. And before Google kind of got like really good and all these people had these courses and everything else, I spent a lot of time on forums. And that was how I built my couple of 300 ZXs twin turbos, built them out. I learned on the forums how to build those cars and save all this money because at that time I didn't have money for that, right? I had to figure it out. I wanted some Garrett's, new turbos. I kind of hustle it myself, right? So I started that initially kind of like things I wanted just to kind of keep up with my buddies and everything else. And that kind of translated, right? So I think the biggest thing is asking when you get a taste of it or you kind of see someone else get a taste of it. And I always said, when I kind of grew up, a lot of people always looked at the guy that pulled up in the Lambo or whatever else. They're like, oh, he's a dick, or oh, he's it. And I was always the guy that just was like, how'd you do it?
Yeah, that's how I am too.
And I think that's gotten me really far. And we were just talking about the other day. I mean, I just joined a company, so I've always owned my own companies, always. Weirdest kind of thing is, and I'm not gonna lie, there was a sense of swallowing my own pride. There was a sense of, but now I've got this awesome growth. I'm not only a part of the company, I play a role in a large company. We're the only one with a Q code that's reimbursed by Medicare. Now that happened the day I joined on, and I launched a product and got it settled with the government, got it listed, got it out there, built a program around it because we have to deal with average sales price, and I'm not even going to go into because there's some real technical stuff, and we've got a horde of attorneys. I think we're up to like 23 different on retainer. It's beyond nuts. But I think
23 lawyers to equal one smart person. I'm just saying.
Well, and that's what it is. The amount of attorneys.
It's like, man, don't play this. I got lawyers and doctors I got to fuck with. Stupid, you can get me in trouble.
That's right.
He didn't say any of this. It's just me, y'all.
But that's the thing, right? As your business gets prongs, you kind of got to grow with it, right? And I think the biggest thing that's kind of differentiated the growth of the business is just shut up and ask sometimes, and listen. And don't always believe, what you're told either, right? You have to then go and metabolize it, really think on it. And then, of course, the hardest part is act, right? I mean, picking up the phone, calling these government entities and everything else, all these other doctors, it's like they actually can refute their claims if Medicare wants to take their money back. Did you know they're terrified to call? That
makes sense. Because it would be like, you got drugs and you're calling the cops to check and see if your neighbor got caught with drugs. You know what I mean? You're scared that they might be onto you, or they might. It's the same like the IRS. I hate calling the IRS because I feel like every time you got to talk to them, you're like, hey man, I sent that to you. It's like, oh yeah, we got that, but you owe us another 10 grand too. Like, well, fuck. You know what I mean? Like you scared to call them because every time there might be a penalty with it. No,
that's right. It's almost no different.
Yep.
And that's where we've kind of, as a company, we've had to develop these weapons. And I'll just say another kind of cool thing too is. We kind of shared, and I shared with you that, my wife sometimes pulls one out, And what I mean by that is like, I'm sitting there I got a problem, right? My doctors are scared of reimbursement, like, because they're like, hey, you got something new. This is cutting edge. This is going to change the world, and you can't say I'm going to make a bunch of money. You can't sell spread at Medicare. That's the government's money. You're talking about they're going to add all this? No. You get fired, you go to jail, recording, everything. So it's a weird world. But I was looking for a sword because
there's a fine fucking line in that shit. You're right.
There is. So I'm looking at these docs. They're all scared because we're got something new, right? And we're in a pool of naysayers, non-sayers, and then uncompliant people. And there's some big people that have invested lately in regenerative medicine. They don't know the rug pull's coming. So what we had to do was kind of create a safe zone, but also you can't mitigate risk in this area either. So I remember I was at home and we were talking about the gun insurance. I had to renew it. I'm talking to my wife and I told you I was transferring bills and she's taking on bills. I'm like, hey baby, if we have to defend ourselves in our home, I'm not trying to get sued to civil oblivion and criminal if we got to take someone out, right? Yep. Baseball bat, gun, it don't matter in the house, right? Yep. That's going to ruin us.
The same insurance. Yep.
So I thought, holy crap, there must be this for medical billing. So what we go to Tokyo Marine. I interview the Lords of London. I start calling all these crazy people that give you helicopter insurance that if you miss your yacht when you're trying to land your helicopter,
right?
Boom, Med Defense Plus. We got $5 million of coverage.
Insurance companies are like casinos. They'll gamble on anything.
That's right.
If you find the right ones, like farmers ain't going to do shit because they're a mass, but the big ones and you want to play big money, they're like casinos. They'll gamble with you.
That's right. And when you're a company that's putting the work and you already present the attorney that'll handle it and what he's going to litigate on and you do a presentation of the case, I feel like a damn paralegal after all this, I swear. I got a little bit of it all. But it's just because enough people didn't ask the question, they didn't push it forward, and they just didn't terrorize people, and I'm pretty good at doing that. But now all of our doctors can have a $5 million, so we have a war chest of over $250 million aggregate to not only our doctors take care of themselves, but take care of anything that the government says, oh, I don't like this, or this was wrong. They have a stance.
They've got a stack to be able to pay back the reimbursements or whatever they may hit them with.
Exactly. And we could just go...
Which keeps you out of jail, keeps you out of court. You just pay the fine, move the fuck on about your business.
That's right, because you know what? I mean, and this is not the best strategy, okay? But this is real, and this is real life. And I know you'll like this. Is guess what? There's someone dumber and easier to roll over. You show up with an attorney with a pre-audit, and you show up with your shit together, and you're like, let's go.
Yeah.
They're going to leave you alone.
They leave you alone.
They're going to find the next idiot.
Yeah.
They don't have time for that.
They'll make an example out of somebody who's not prepared.
And they make bonuses based on what they collect. Why are they going to waste time and assets on you when there's someone else that's prepared?
Yep.
But that's life too,
That
right?
That is life fucking in general right there.
Yeah. So I think, common sense goes a long ways. And I think when we get into some of these more complicated models, I think fear and doubt, and this was a quote I just sent to my team and everything, fear and doubt is the worst thing to the human potential, right? And I think when you get up to these levels, it becomes so crazy that you've got to fit this model. And now even me trying to grow up with a bunch of them, employees and hire people and even convince people to move their families to, Pensacola, Florida. That's not easy. That's not easy. And the talent pool and everything else, there's just a lot of common sense that gets overlooked. And we're kind of a young, scrappy kind of band of misfits that are going into this corporate style. Over 50 employees, guess what? The game changes, right? You got to start abiding by all this other stuff. There's some ladies probably going to catch me and, get me in trouble or something, right? Because I'm pretty off the cuff. I mean, I'm a part of this organization. It's all about being off the cuff and just saying what it is, right? So we're kind of navigating that, but it's been cool because we've been able to develop weapons and bring common sense to areas that are really lacking it. And I think that's all over. People just aren't looking or asking for it.
Man, that's the beauty about America really is you can go from dropping out of high school to running a multi-million dollar, huge company that's on the cutting edge. And, it's funny, and you probably thought about this, but I have a few friends that, during COVID, they were just rubber stamping anything that you like, hey man, this helps with COVID. You sure? Psh, rubber stamp it. That's right. Vaccines went through, alternative therapies went through, shit that would normally take a decade to go through the SBA or the FCA and all, all that shit, man. It's like, all of a sudden it just goes right through,
Mm-hmm.
And were you guys able to use that to your advantage at some point as well?
Yeah, we actually created a vacuum. So while like a lot of these companies were doing intravenous applications and they were saying, oh, we treat lupus, cancer, and all that other stuff. Here's the goofy part, right? Is regenerative medicine is actually tissue. All right, and this is how bad common sense is. All these doctors took these things.
So tissue meaning cells, tissue, muscle, right? Or cells, tissue,
human cell
organ.
tissue product.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? But the thing is that why the connotation stem cell is a bad word and why we're seeing a lot of negativity is because you're promoting metabolic factors. You can't predict metabolic factors, and therefore you have to verify them and they have to be safe and effective. That becomes a drug. But if you lose that tissue and I replace a like-for-like tissue, so basically an amniotic membrane, it's like a Band-Aid. If I turn to a smaller patch, it's still like a Band-Aid. I used to cover a Band-Aid. Right. Every Yahoo took it up and ground it up and put it in a syringe. How's that a Band-Aid? And why are you putting it inside someone's knee? You have to use like-for-like tissue. So all these people using regenerative medicine and all this other stuff are promoting all these things that a drug would take care of medical conditions or diseases. Our company, it created a vacuum for us, is what I'm saying, is because you don't need FDA approval. There's a special segment within the government that's protected by the Public Service Health Act 361, bunch of fancy stuff. All that means is that, look, if you can prove that your tissue is and what it is and it's going to function, and you put it where it's missing and it will function like it's supposed to in its native form, we know that's safe.
So you mean so I've done stem cells 3 or 4 times, and every time it's been through IV, right? Mm-hmm. And they basically set you up with a saline bag and then they shoot the shit in there, right? Yeah. And it's usually like 20 grand a pop too, you know what I mean? Maybe more for some people. That's like, well, I say it's my wife and I, so it's 20 grand for the two of us that I'm always paying. So maybe 20 grand per person for somebody else. I feel like I kind of get the hook up there, you know, but I know people that have paid more, but it's very expensive. But it is intravenous. How do you guys do it? You guys so if you're not shooting it through an IV, are you using a needle and putting it direct application to the spot? So like if you got knee issues, you guys are shooting the shit in the knee directly. Is that how it works?
So what we're indicated for is we're the only flowable. Flowable means can be applied through syringe. And I gotta get real technical, but I'm just gonna do it because I have to.
Right.
So it's called applied by syringe. So we are for structural tissue defects. So say you had a cartilage defect and the doctor's running around saying, hey, we're going to take care of your osteoarthritis. That's just a symptom of you missing the cartilage, right? So they're here chasing your symptoms, telling you that this magic juice is going to do all these magical things that they can't really verify. They don't know. And here's another thing. How many cells actually work for what you got? No one knows.
Right.
So that's why the FDA doesn't like kind of the hocus pocus, right? And I'm not crapping on any of it. I think it's all got a place, but I'm talking about what you can actually do business with and make sure it's safe, right? So we have a Wharton's jelly. That protects the baby in the umbilical cord from it torsioning, cutting off blood flow. It cushions and structurally supports the same collagen fibrin that's in your cartilage. That's why we can do cartilage tears. So my product, you got a cartilage defect that's causing all these issues, we're just going to put it back. So we transplant the same structural components right back. You get results way faster because there's no hocus pocus. There's nothing to work in 6 weeks. We just put it back. So instead of crossing your fingers hoping for some result, it's just there.
Man, that's crazy.
That's the difference.
So how big of a in let's be real, like in the medical world, like it's especially because you got drug companies that start to come against you. You got like a big target on your back from maybe the medical providers and shit like that. You know, like how much do you think like growing something that big that's going to change things? There's going to be a massive amount of opposition, right? Like how do you prepare yourself to deal with that?
Well, we've been preparing that. Both.
I mean, they make movies about this kind of shit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
like,
they do. And it's not only the drug companies. It's actually, there's a connotation like with the orthopedics, PRP and bone marrow. They are kind of I guess they feel like they're the do-riders, but it's really old school because you're trying to work with what you got, right? I'm going to draw your blood, spin it down. Hey, right. Sometimes that's like use duct tape. Right. You know what I mean? It only works for so long.
Yep.
So that's, once again, getting verifiable results is the biggest thing. And that's where since June 1st, 2021, the word stem cell, unless you're using bone marrow or someone's own stuff, you can't even advertise. Intravenous, if you're not leaving the States, it's technically like illegal.
Yeah, I bought the shit out of the back of a car. You know what I mean? I did. It was like a drug deal. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's just where it's changed.
I had to go to one of those like IV places to get them, and I had to convince them to shoot me up with the shit. Dude, it was a whole fucking thing, man. It's like going to the doctor and be like, look, I got a heroin problem, but I'm going to show you where to shoot the shit. You know what I mean? They're like, we'll do whatever for, an extra few $100s. I'm like, yes, here you go.
Well, and that's because the FDA had a 3-year period where they said non-enforcement discretionary period. They weren't enforcing nothing. So they drug their feet. So yeah, that created a vacuum for us, but also created a lot of bad actors where now they had to overstep. And they overstepped with us a little bit too, but we had our cards ready and right. So now we'll actually probably be a monopoly with the only flowable tissue product on the market. So there's a massive massive vacuum that we've been building up for a long time. This has been a 4-year project. I came on not that long ago, about a year and 2 months ago. But that's what this company's been building up and focusing on the foundation, right? Making sure the foundation is good, and there's a place where when the market falls out, it's going to stand in front of the government, then it's going to stand for payment and reimbursement, and then also, you're right, the drug companies are either going to come to play, or what a lot of things is they made all these rules to shove those companies into the drug pathway, and guess what? It's like vultures. They just pick them off, right? They ain't got the money.
Acquire them or fight them,
Yeah, or sink them. Buying pennies on the dollar. So the FDA just came out and said, look, that we know that's not working. I can't believe they said that last week. They came out and said, we understand that that's these smaller companies with innovation, like we've crushed them and kind of fed them to the wolves. And it's like, you're a day late, dollar short. But hey, we're here. You guys want to talk about how we can work together? And you know, they're having some conversations. I gotta be careful here because attorney-client privilege, but yeah, we've been working on this for a while. So you're going to see it change. It's going to go in a way where people can really trust it and have their expectations met. The marketplace needs it.
That's cool. So how does somebody, if they're listening right now and they're like, got a bad hip, bad knee, bad elbow, whatever the hell, and they're like, dude, that sounds like it could fucking help me. Where do they find, do you guys have a network of people or a website they can go through that says what doctors administer it or whatever the hell?
Yeah, so we've been working on that just because the marketplace, we have a lot of funny people, so we kind of like to protect our list of people because, no better way of sales, by the way, when people put all their doctors on their website. That's like 101 in medical.
It's like putting your leads out there.
Yeah. So, so it's regenerativlabs.com. We're only for structural tissue defects. So what they would have to do is find a doctor if they were struggling with something like that. And if we could identify the structural tissue defect, which is underlying in a lot of different joint areas, right? Like that's the underlying issue and they've been chasing something else. Then they can go see that doctor, make sure that it's actually identified that's what the underlying issue is, and then the patient may or may not qualify, right? So it's a bit of a process, but the nice part is if the process is done, we know it's really gonna help them because we're also the largest running retrospective repository. So sometimes you gotta play defense in business too, right?
Right.
So what we did is every doctor that works with us, they actually have to follow the patient's journey for outcome. There's a couple of reasons. It's complicated. I'm not going to get into it, but it's defense. So that way, if anyone ever comes knocking or asking, you're like, wait, I've got the largest patient database in the United States of America right now. And by the way, the gold back end game, data's king, right?
Yep.
Especially in that world. But we've got all this data. We've got all these consistent outcomes. So there's not a question of, well, how do I know?
Yeah.
How do I know? And before you would have been out 20 grand, right?
Right.
Well, now we're getting insurance companies to participate, Medicare being our biggest and best one. So it's changing. It's changing.
That's huge, man. Well, that's big stuff, though. You know what I mean? Like this is the future that we're looking forward to. One of the reasons I wanted to bring him on here is a lot of the shit you hear today is like doom and gloom. The last time you heard any kind of big medical breakthrough is this bullshit vaccines that they've been pushing on everybody, which, it worked for some people, didn't work for others. It was a big, huge clinical trial that they basically did on everybody, and but it's always, I like hearing new stuff that's good, that's really going to help people too. Because in this country, it's weird. It seems like new shit that helps people oftentimes gets muted. You know what I mean? But it's like you said, that because of the bigger drug, like Pfizer's a gazillion-dollar company. Mm-hmm. So like if I got something that fixes this, then they're like, yeah, that's nice, but our 50,000 employees don't like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, it has to fit the mold, right?
Yep.
Because they have a mold that they can kind of control. And I don't fault them for it. I went to be honest with you, and that's once again, I got to go ask, right? Mm-hmm. So we're at the biggest pharma conference. They hadn't got together in 2 years, and I shook hands with the top CEOs from Pfizer, GSK, actually really nice people. And when I sat down with them, I obviously I went in with bias, right? I mean, every human does. If you don't have bias, you probably don't have, a little bit of judgment, which means you probably get hit by a car or something. You know what I mean? It's just it. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I went in and I was just like, I was actually really impressed that these people really do care. Yeah. They do, but there's a byproduct of the system, and I think that sometimes you kind of have to play with the system once you get in certain areas of business, but that doesn't mean you need to change who you are, your core values, or what you really want to achieve, but let's just say I was actually pretty impressed. I was with the people there and what they're trying to achieve and all that other stuff. I think the whole diversity thing and, they take more applications for certain things with the whole new wave of stuff and political stuff that I don't really see, but I could have left without that. But these people are trying, and I think that gave me where it's like, okay, Well, when we're going into OR and hospitals where these big monsters are, maybe we just need to befriend them, right? Sometimes you got to put down the sword and like put out a hand, right? Yeah. And I think sometimes when people are just aggressive and they're fighting for their business and everything else, they think they always got to carry the sword around looking for a head to chop off, and that's not always the case, right? Yeah. And I think that was just another enlightening thing where I've always said, I got to ask, and I just got to always give that chance, right? I mean, I try not to let them burn me. I've done that too a lot, so I've learned from that, right? But I'm not going to let my scars, affect, what's got me where I am, and that's always come from that young, immature state. And sure, I've matured, but I don't ever want to lose that, what I call my little kid in me, because I think that comes from my mom, and she instilled the best in me, and that's what I always say. So she gave me that. I don't ever want to lose that, because that is how I'm able to do what I'm doing. But I got to be conscious of that too. So anyways, that's a little ramble on my personal thing, but.
Man, I appreciate you. That dude, like, you're a smart dude. So, I mean, it's been a great show, lots of information, maybe even help some people get their shit together on the medical side. You know what I mean? So, what was it, regenativelabs.com?
Yep, that's right.
And then where can they find you on social media? You got.
So, it's Beeben Russell, like a bee that flies around. And then Beeben Russell. I get every email. I get every handle, just straight up, Beeben Russell. So, right. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm probably one of the easier ones to find, because I get just my name, first and last, every time. So
if for no other reason, follow him to keep an eye on what they're doing, leading the way in basically uncharted territory for medicine. So it'd be pretty cool. As you guys do big PR and announcements and stuff, I'm sure you're going to put that stuff out there, right? I mean,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, awesome, man. Well, thank you guys for listening. You know what? The price to pay for this show is 5-star reviews. Leave me a 5-star review telling me how awesome myself and my guests are, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Rise above.